All right, I almost forgot. I need to explain to you guys the phases of Lenora's fate. So basically, I'll probably have a list on the screen that basically says the list. Give me one sec. So during the startup phase, it is officially the current player's turn. During this phase, you will actually gain 1 Evo gem. So this is when, let's just say I had 2. Now it's the startup phase. I go to 3. Now it's the draw phase. I draw 1 card. During the preparation phase, I can basic summon, extra summon, and activate cantrips and set counters as much as possible. Emphasis on possible. You can't just basic summon 5 times. You only get 1 basic summon per turn. Per turn. Then we have the strike phase. The strike phase is when you are able to battle your opponent with your creatures. And during this phase, there are special rules that you can do. And so can your opponent. Let's just say, let's bring these 2 out. Okay. So let's say these 2 creatures, I have them out on the field. I want to attack some, here, let me find something. Let's just say, here. They have a Rock Guardian. Rock Guardian has 100 attack. These 2, well, we're going to ignore their effects because their effects do stuff, but these 2 have a basic attack of 50. Let's just say they can't use their effects right now, so they don't get their attack gain. So they have 50. I cannot individually, if I individually attack into this, I will take life point damage and I will lose the creature. So what you can do is if there is a creature that has higher attack than you, but you have a combination of creatures that will equal up more than that, you can declare a combination attack. A combination attack is and you use at least 2 different creatures to attack 1 creature. So by declaring, I will tell my opponent I declare a combination attack. I will choose these 2 because they're all I have on the field. And by the way, by at least 2, it means as in you have to choose at least 2. You can go more. You can choose as many creatures as you have possible on the field, but it has to be at least 2 when you declare a combination attack. So I will pick these 2. They will combine their attack values, so they will equal out 100, and it will basically kill him while killing themselves. Although that wouldn't be the greatest plan, that's what I that's what I walked myself into when doing the rules. But anyways, you can declare a combination attack to equal up both their attack values to beat over a creature on your opponent's side with a default higher attack. Something else that your opponent can do, and actually let me give me 1 second here. I'm using 1 deck. All right, let's just say it's a mirror match. They are also playing floofs, whatever. What I can do, so if I declare a combination attack to try and beat over their Aqua Floof, they can decide whether they want to declare a protection. A protection is when they choose a creature that is in attack, in battle, yeah. A protection is when they declare a protection and they choose a creature that they have in battle mode, and then they will turn that creature to protection. So basically by doing that, you are now forced to attack the creature that is protecting. Regardless, if their creature has higher defense than your attack, you will take damage, but their creature will still be destroyed, as they have to sacrifice it because it makes it less broken of a mechanic. So basically, if you declare a protection and your defense is higher than your opponent's, your creature still gets destroyed. It just does not take, it does not take damage. You don't take damage. Your opponent does because they attacked something with higher defense. If you declare a protection and your creature's attacks are higher than their defense, you will take damage and your creature will also be destroyed. And then another thing I should also say is that let's just say they don't declare a protection. Let's say they just put it they put it face down. They basic summoned it face down. I attack into it. They flip their creature up. Their creature has higher defense than my creature's attack. I will take damage by the difference of their defense and my creature's attack, and then because my creature lost the battle, basically, it will go to the grave. Same thing applies of if I attack something with higher attack, I will take attack damage and my creature will be destroyed. And vice versa to them. If I attack something with higher defense though, let's just say they naturally just had it this way, and I attack it and its defense is lower. So they'll flip it up, their defense is lower than my attack, their creature is destroyed, but they don't take any damage to the life points because it was already in protection. So and then basically the obvious one, if you attack if you attack over one of their creatures and your attack is higher than their creature's attack, they take life point damage. Sorry, I just realized I got sidetracked during the during the strike phase, but yes, the strike phase you can do all that. You can even activate cantrips during the strike phase. The only things you cannot do during the strike phase, if it is your turn, is summon creatures. You cannot summon anymore once you enter the strike phase. But you can attack and you can activate cantrips. Another thing is that after the strike phase, you do have a chance to go into the regroup phase. The regroup phase is practically the preparation phase, except it is after the strike phase. The only difference is that if you've already basic summoned your turn, you cannot do it. Basically, if you go to the strike phase immediately without basic summoning and then go to regroup phase, you can basic summon. But if you basic summon before the strike phase, you cannot basic summon. Remember, you only get one basic summon per turn. The preparation phase, the regroup phase does not change anything. The regroup phase is basically the preparation phase. You can do everything you can do, and they're like Yu-Gi-Oh's main phase 1, main phase 2 if you've played that. And then the end phase, of course, that is when you declare the end of your turn. Another thing I should mention that I almost forgot is that a lot of games have a thing called chains, effect chains and stuff. Yu-Gi-Oh has it, I think Magic has it. A lot of games have things where you can chain off of other things. I will let you know, no worries. I think it is pretty simple. Unlike in the game of Yu-Gi-Oh, where there are things where you can miss timing or chains, chain protection and stuff, there is none of that. Okay. And there's no special cards you need to activate that can only chain after other... No, none of that. The simplistic rules is that anything can chain after anything as long as you can meet the requirements of the card. So, let's do this. So I'll show you. Let's say they activate Shard of Life. Shard of Life is a card that can revive a creature from the grave. I will respond with my counter called Cantrip Dud. Basically, when your opponent activates his cantrip, I pay 200 life, then destroy the cantrip. In this game, now if you play Yu-Gi-Oh, you may be confused because MST doesn't negate. In this game, if a card is activated on the field and then it leaves the field before it is its turn to activate, it technically gets negated. But let's continue this. So basically, let's just say they activate Shard of Life. I activate Cantrip Dud to negate that by destroying it. They then activate Counter Trick. Counter Trick will negate this by destroying it. So, as you can see, when you are starting a chain, notice how nothing has left the field. That is because the chain is still being built up. What I like to use is the metaphor, you're building up your ladder and then you're climbing down. So we're at 1 step, 2 step, 3 step. Our ladder is 3 steps high. So then, once no one else has any responses, because I can't respond to that, because I don't have any cards to respond to that, it will then start to go backwards. This card will finally activate, well, it will go through its effect, destroying my Cantrip Dud. Cantrip Dud goes to the grave. Now, after that's done, it goes to the grave, but now it's Cantrip Dud's turn to activate. It's not on the field anymore. It's in the grave. Technically, it gets negated, as it has left the field before it is its turn to activate its effect. Well, to finalize its effect, as I would say. Because you activated it by playing it, its effect did not go through. So, because Cantrip Dud is technically negated because it was destroyed before it was its turn to go through its effect, Shard of Life can go through. So technically, he negated my negate so that he could use his Shard of Life. And basically, that is a simple representation. I hope it's simple. I hope you can understand. Simple representation of how chains work. Basically, you build up your ladder and then you go back down. And if a card leaves the field, if it leaves... Oh, sorry. Whoops. If a card leaves the field before it is its turn to go through with its effect, it gets negated. And any card can respond to any other card as long as the conditions are met. So remember that. There is no mistiming, there is no chain blocking, there's no, oh, that card can't respond to this card because it's not a certain type of card. No. If its requirements are met and you can do it, you can respond. That's how I keep it simple. I almost forgot to mention that something else to keep an eye on is that, so you may be confused of like, oh, well, what if this one card, what if I did this one action during the middle of a chain and I'm supposed to get something? Don't worry, it will start a chain of its own. It doesn't interrupt the chain. It will start to do its own thing once the chain is over. So basically, let's just say you summon a card in the middle of a chain. Like, let's just say you activate, yeah, let's just say with the past thing about with the Shard of Life. You activate a card that would bring it back from the grave. Well, basically, let's just say that was in the middle of a chain. So then, what you can do, well, what will happen is basically the chain will continue. The original chain will continue, but that monster will still get its effect after the chain is done. There is no missed timing. Basically, if you summon a creature that says, when this creature is summoned, do this. If that was like, if let's just say you activate a Shard of Life at like step 2, I guess. And then, the creature's summoned and then the final card does its effect. The creature will then activate its effect and start a chain of its own if your opponent starts to respond to it. And that's another thing I almost forgot to say. How chains will work. You cannot respond to yourself unless your opponent says they don't want to respond or they have no response. So basically, what can happen, if you activate a card, you have to give your opponent the chance to activate something in response. If they say, I have no response, or no response, basically if they deny a response to your card, you can then chain yourself. But you always have, once you activate something, you have to give your opponent the chance to activate something in response. So basically, it's a back and forth. Even if the opponent says, I have no response, once they say, when you activate a card, they say no response, you're just like, okay, and then you do step 2. I hope that makes sense.